Do you think it's too late to get started acting or voice narration? My guest today, Kris Keppeler, got started acting in her 40s and is still doing voice narration, dubbing, commercials, and acting in her 60s. Tune into today's episode where we dive into how she does it and some tips for getting started. Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams. Hello, Late Starters. It's your host, Andrea Vall, and I am here with Kris Keppeler. She is a narrator, actor, and writer, and she brings your content to life with words, sounds, and images. So she discovered her singing voice in junior high, and she's never quit using her voice to amuse and instigate. But what I love is that she really didn't lean into her acting until after 40. And we're going to dive into some of that and talk about her journey and talk about getting into your acting after 40, especially as a woman, right? It's not always, it's a little bit of a challenge. So welcome, Kris.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about the history of what you've done and talk about how you decided to get into acting?
I've always been a singer. As you mentioned, I started in junior high choir and continued up through junior college. And then I got bored standing close together in a black dress with lots of people. Age. And I backed off of it for a while, but then in my 30s, I miss singing. I love to sing, and I want to do this again. And I started looking around for a voice teacher, and I also a blind date took me to a Gilbert and Sullivan production. And on the back of the program, it said, "We're looking for chorus members. Call us and come audition."
Mhm.
And so I knew nothing about auditioning. And so I just called them up and went and did it anyway. And in their next production, I was a fairy in Iolanthe, and I got to have wings and carry a wand around. And that was a lot more fun than standing around in a black dress with a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
I I found a voice teacher, and then I also was in their next production as chorus member. And then it was like, gee, I'd like to be at the front of the stage. And so that meant taking acting lessons, something
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about. Had singing lessons off and on ever since I think high school. And I just it was difficult to get into acting at my age. At that point, I was in my early 40s. But I've discovered once I got into it that I really enjoyed it. And then it was like, okay, I've learned a few things. I'm going to actually audition and see if I can get to the front of the stage. And I I did. After several
Yeah.
auditions, I started out with some musical theater. I was understudy to Aunt Eller in Oklahoma, and actually ended up going on stage once as Aunt Eller. The lead fell off the stage and hurt her knee,
Oh
and
gosh.
I had 4 hours notice.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That
You got to
was
be
well,
ready.
yeah, I was ready, and I enjoyed that. It was quite the challenge, but it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep doing this."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I ended up one of the most fun things was singing the role of the Mother Abbess in The Sound of Music in their Sound of Music production.
Oh yeah.
That was really, really fun. And then I got then maybe I'd like to do some film, and maybe I'd like to do just regular theater.
Yeah.
And I just started pushing the acting envelope, got roles, started to get some roles in local films, and I'm a character actor. Was it, getting roles and acting roles is not easy, but I was, you know, I'm a character actor, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
do the lead anyway. And I
Yeah.
realized that, and I like doing character stuff. I love, especially love comedy, and I love telling funny stories, and that's
Yeah.
how I got into my podcast. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So now you do podcasting. You've done a number of shorts. You've been in
yes,
movies such as
yes,
Seven Witches, A Perfect Life, lots of different shorts and movies. And that's awesome.
yes.
Yeah. And now, are you LA based? I forgot to ask you.
No, I'm in Seattle.
Okay. So that's the thing I love too, because I think people also assume that you have to be based in one of the hubs because there's movies and
There's
productions
in
happening.
yeah, everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. There isn't as many opportunities. There are a lot fewer
Sure.
opportunities here in
Hmm.
Seattle, but still,
Sure.
they're still there. They're still there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just plug into the community. And I'm sure, are you still taking acting classes or is it something you did and
I'm always looking for ways, yeah, to I'd like to take more classes than I have time to do. Like,
yeah,
but
definitely
yeah,
there
I
is.
still where I can have a chance to train, I continue, yeah, to do that. Yeah, and I have an agent in town. There
Okay.
aren't just agents in LA and major hubs.
Right.
There's agents all over the US.
So that's important to know too. And does your
Yes.
agent bring you at what point did you decide to get the agent?
Oh, I'd started doing film, and someone said, "Oh, you should see if you can find an agent." And yeah, I
Yeah, and
so I
does
did.
your a yeah, and then does your agent bring things to you and you also find things, or is that yeah,
Both, both.
yeah. So I think that's super important for people to realize too. It's not like you just sit back, get an agent, and then be like, all right, I'm done. You have to be
No,
out there
no. Yeah, you have to be yeah.
watching.
I'm
Yeah.
always out there, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What has been one of your most fun things to narrate? What have you enjoyed narrating?
I love narrating the stories for my podcast because I love
Mhm.
telling funny stories. That's
Mhm.
one of my favorites. But actually, among audiobooks that I've narrated, I narrated a series, it's 18 books or something like that on Wicca,
Mm.
something I knew nothing about. I'd
Mhm.
never heard of
Mhm.
it before.
Mhm.
And it was really interesting to learn. The things I like about audiobooks is I get to learn so many different things.
Yeah.
Learning about Wicca, and then I learned a lot about pronunciation. Let me tell you, during those books. If you haven't run into Old Irish,
Mhm.
I remember looking at a word and going, not sure how to pronounce that. And then I pulled it up on my computer and it's okay. That's what it sounds like? I would never have guessed in a million
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good that it's so nice in this time of the internet that there are so many pronunciations out there that are
Yep.
available. Because
Yes.
and have you had to do like different accents or things like that? Have you had to
Yes, I've done some different accents. That's not my area of expertise, but yes, I have done different accents and just very some different characters. I think one of the most challenging books I did was a really short children's book. I think it was about 10 minutes. But it's like A to Z animals. And so there were 10 different animals that needed a voice. And so I want a very distinct voice for each one of them. And some were easy.
Mm.
Bees are easy. Snakes are
Yeah.
easy. But what the heck does an anteater sound like?
That's funny.
That took a while to come up with.
Yeah, that is funny. That is funny. And then how are you finding these narrating gigs? Is there like a website where people are looking for narrators or is it on a general posting page? How are you finding the
As
gigs for
far
some of these?
as audiobooks go, there are places where you can go audition, like ACX, and that is actually the back office to Audible. And and authors go out there and they post, it's like, I wanna make my book into an audiobook and I'm looking for narrators. So you can audition there. There's another place called Ahab Talent. And sometimes I've approached authors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's great. That's great. I love that. And I think that the big message that I think is important for people is that it doesn't matter that we're older. Sometimes I think people think just younger people need younger people or people need younger actors or whatever. And our voices and our representation is needed at every stage.
it is. It is.
That's that
Yeah.
is the huge thing. And I think
Yeah.
you can get into acting, you can get into voice acting,
Yes.
narrating, all
Yes.
there. And
Yes.
especially now in this world of podcasting, people are doing lots of different types of podcasts. Like people are reenacting things or dramatizing things, or
Yes.
there's so much content that needs someone to either give a voice to it or be a face in that space.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And they need all ages.
yeah.
And one of my recent projects has been dubbing foreign
Oh,
films.
oh, interesting.
And yes, and it turns out that there are a lot of wonderful it's been all European films, German, Italian, and French.
Uh huh.
And especially European films, they don't just cast young women, they have a really wide range. And
Uh
I
huh.
have had the chance to voice some really amazing characters that are in my age group.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
So
fun.
yeah.
And you can do this from home. So it's
Yep.
something you can do on your own time
Yep.
from home. How long does it usually take for a project? I guess it can really depend on the.
Oh, it can depend. A short voiceover or video testimonial is an hour and a half. If you're doing an entire audiobook, it can take you an entire month.
Mhm.
So it really depends
Yeah.
on.
And then for that, you really need some specialized equipment, right? You need it to be quiet. What did you need to set up in your home to get started doing this?
I have my own home studio.
Mhm.
Luckily, we had an alcove. We have an older home. It has an alcove. We put up sound dampening foam in the alcove, and then we
Mhm.
put a couple sound dampening curtains around the outside, and that's my studio. And
That's
it works perfectly. I know people who use their walk-in closet.
yeah.
You just have to it has to be a quiet space where the sound doesn't bounce around. Yeah, but you do need your own special space for that.
Yeah.
And you need a computer, you need a mic. Generally, you wanna use a better mic than a USB that plugs into your computer, and so if you use a regular condenser mic, you need a preamp to power it. So that's all those are the basics you need to learn how to use a recording program. Uh, there's one out there that's free, Audacity. I never liked that one, so I found one that most people don't use, but it's actually a suite of audio visual products, and I
Mhm.
use most of the little programs. I probably use the audio recorder editor most, but there's a video editor, which I also need because as an actor nowadays, all your auditions are done at home, which means I had to learn lighting, all that stuff, and I had to learn how to edit.
Yeah, that's a great question. So now when you're submitting something for an audiobook, you're not having to or to edit that at all. Is that correct? Or are you submitting
I
something edited?
Yeah, I taught myself how to edit. As a voice actor, you're gonna have to have some basic editing techniques.
Mhm.
It's necessary. I taught myself a little more, and I taught myself how to actually produce an audiobook too. That was a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it, and I recently taught myself how to punch and roll, which is a special technique for audiobooks. It lessens the back end editing time. Otherwise, if you're doing an audiobook, you have to hire an editor, and that's not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I say, you have to learn some editing skills anyway.
So it's a little daunting. So as far as like getting into the business, it's not too difficult as far as you have to have some equipment, but you also have to have a little bit of tech savvy, right? You need to,
Oh, yes, you do. Yes.
you can't
Like,
be
yeah,
afraid of the computer is probably not the right,
no,
not the right fit.
no, you can't be afraid of the computer.
But even if you're acting, right? Because if you are having to, if you are having to submit your auditions
Yep.
with your home equipment, then you do have
Yep.
to know that too. That's
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah, I have actually used my phone. My phone actually makes excellent videos. And it's not even a iPhone. It still makes
Mhm.
excellent videos. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what we use.
that's good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's good. So one of the questions I always like to see what questions people gravitate towards. And one
Yeah.
of the things you wanted to highlight was the importance of getting help with marketing your business.
Yes.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that and what that's been like for you.
That's been the most difficult. That is, I thought I could teach myself, and I haven't really had a lot of luck. It's just
Mhm.
not my area of expertise.
Mhm.
And so I've just learned, I'm still learning, but I found for
Yeah.
me that the best way to market myself is networking, speaking in front of groups. I've spoken to some author groups, spoken at some conferences, virtual conferences about audiobooks. I have a short course out there, audio course on audiobook narration for authors. And so for me, that's been the one way that I can easily market
Mhm.
myself. But it's been a very long road to even learn that. And yeah, that's still the hardest part for me.
Yeah. It is. It's the hardest part for a lot of people. Even it's always a challenge. Marketing is challenging. And one of the things you've been doing that I saw is you put some YouTube shorts out there
Oh, yes.
and you
Yes.
so talk about how what you're doing with that and getting out there and pressing because I think a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out on video. That's even if you're an actor, even if you're a speaker, I am sometimes afraid to put myself out on video.
Yes. Um, yeah, I had to push myself a bit. It's just find something that people talk, find something that people might find interesting. And I'm still shaking it out as to what people do find interesting about what I'm saying. I go out and look at all my shorts that I've done and see how many views and if people like them or not. And then I'm going to use that to tweak future shorts, for what people like to hear about. And it's just a matter of just find the best light, hold your phone up, and start talking. It's not that hard.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. The good thing
Yeah.
is they're only a minute.
Yeah, they have to be very short. It's wow. It's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's not a lot
Yeah.
of time at all.
Yeah. It's a good thing. It's also a bad thing. I've had so many shorts where I think I'm talking as fast as I can and it's 102.
Ah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, dang it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're at the interesting thing is what keeps you going? Like a lot of times people think I'm going to retire and doesn't seem like you're slowing down with that or you're out there doing things, getting out there. You've got an upcoming production. What is keeping you motivated and going?
It's I want to keep doing interesting things. And I could just sit around. That's not good for me. I'm going to get bored in a day if I do that. A day or two. And it's I just really enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy having challenges out there. Yeah. To some goals I want to meet and just, yeah, I don't want to sit around. I don't want to sit
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. Me neither. Me neither. I just say that I don't think I'm ever going to retire. It's going to look different. It'll look different, but I don't think I'm ever going to retire. It's
Yeah.
just get out there and have fun and follow the interesting projects that make life fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What, how have you run into during this time you've been acting and trying to get yourself out there and
Uh-huh.
submitting for roles and things like
Uh-huh.
that? Have you found a time where you've been overwhelmed and you felt you just didn't know how to get through and what has helped you get through a tough time?
It's just, what can I do to change things up? That's what I do. What can I do to change things up? What I'm doing now isn't quite working. What can I do to change things up? Maybe this belonging to this group for a couple of years worked. It doesn't work anymore. So I'll join another group. Or I was, I joined a small business platform, Alignable, and I was a local leader before the pandemic and putting together some face to face, which was difficult getting people to show up. And then during the pandemic, of course, that quit. But then they decided they wanted to form groups, which is a big thing online now. And I'm like, oh, so they asked the local leaders, would you like to form a group? And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be cool to have a group for creative businesses or artists who have a business? And they were like, oh, you want arts and crafts? No,
No.
it's artists, creative businesses, all types. So I came up
Yeah.
with the name that they like, the Creative Arts Business Coalition. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll have 250 people join. It's been about 3 years now. I have 25,000 members.
Wow.
And that's, and I love hosting. We have virtual events twice a month, and I love
Mhm.
hosting those.
Mhm.
And now I'm starting to get, people who are interested in my business because I am out there as the face of the group.
Right. Mhm.
That's been a great marketing thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you never know how that's gonna go. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you hit a
Yeah.
nerve, you struck a chord with people and who
Yeah.
also realize they wanna market their artistic, creative
Yeah.
business, and
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to do, as we have talked about, getting out there and
Yeah.
marketing, which
So it's been a great way for me to get out there. And I'm
yeah.
like, not really marketing. And I'm
Mhm.
really enjoying what I'm
Yeah,
doing. I really enjoy
yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I love that. That is awesome. That is awesome. I always love to, for those of you who are longtime listeners, you guys know I am a quote junkie. So I always love to hear someone's motivational saying or inspirational quote on what keeps them going.
Yes. I'm a fan of Mark Twain.
Mhm.
And in fact, I have narrated a story of his that was really great. It is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt.
That is great. I love that so much. I know the funny thing is, I've been doing this podcast for about a year or a little over a year, and I don't think we've had any repeats. We've had someone else who had a Mark Twain quote. So I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be our first repeat. But nope, that was different.
He has a lot of them, and
Yeah.
I had never heard the story that I narrated, and it was, he has some really great stuff. That is stuff that people really know about that made it big. He wrote a lot of really great things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you
That's
don't hear about.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so what's next for you? What are you excited about next? What are you looking to get into? What's your
Oh my gosh. I've actually been very busy, and I'm taking a breather this week just to pull things together. It's
Yeah.
okay, time to pull things together because I booked a training video the end of October. I like
Mhm.
doing those,
Mhm.
and that was through my agent. And then I've been doing some writing. I actually did an article for the Sound Sorceresses newsletter, which is a group for female podcasters, a newsletter for female podcasters.
Good.
And then I've been doing some dubbing, more dubbing. That seems to be an ongoing right now, an ongoing. And then I've been doing video testimonials,
Great.
which are literal, it's selfies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
They're looking for
sometimes, yes.
they're
Yep.
looking for a lot of that
Yep.
user-generated content where you
Yep.
go in and do a
Yep.
testimonial. Those are
Yeah.
really big
Yes.
right now. So,
Yes. And actors are perfect to do
yeah.
those.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a real person speaking. Well,
Yeah. Usually someone demoing or doing something, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Sometimes they give me a script. One that I just recently worked on, they didn't even give me a script. They just
Uh-huh.
gave me an outline of what they wanted me to talk about. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Cool.
okay.
All right. That's
So yeah,
that's fun.
that's what I've been working on. And I'm always
Love it.
working on trying to get the word out on my podcast. So if you've got boomers
Yeah.
listening to this podcast, I have a podcast that has a lot of boomer stories. I narrate a lot of boomer stories.
Yeah. So great. Why don't you share where people can connect with you? And we'll have all these links in the show notes.
Oh, okay, great. My podcast is Does This Happen to You? You can find it on YouTube. It's under Kris Keppeler and all the major platforms, Spotify, uh, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
I have a website, kriskeppeler.com. And actually, I have a rather unusual name. And so if you plug my name in Google, my IMDb page will also come up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
You can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
great. We'll have all the connections there for you.
Okay,
But
great.
thank you so much, Kris, for coming on and sharing
You're
your
welcome.
ideas and thoughts about what you've been doing. And I think it's just a fun way to say, hey, it's never too late to get into acting or voice acting or voiceover, all kinds of
It
things.
is never
all
too
available.
late. Never too
Yeah.
late.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.